David peeked through the window of the company daycare. It was late, almost closing time, the children gone home with their parents. He watched Julie, her blonde hair shining under the fluorescent lights as she organized toys. The woman he lusted for and desired to be near. She had rejected his love before. He licked his lips. She was the one he needed. He slipped through the unlocked door, his heart pounding. There was a risk to his plan, a huge one, but the reward, the chance to be with Julie for a short while, was worth it. At least that's what he kept telling himself. David ducked into Maintenay's closet. He could hear Julie's humming further away now. His hand trembled as he pulled a vial filled with shimmering blue liquid from his pocket. The youth serum. He'd stolen it from his boss's lab, knowing the risks. His plan was crazy, insane even. But David was desperate. He was convinced that if he could just get close to Julie, if he could just spend time with her, he would find a way to make her love him. He even had the means to reverse the effects of the youth serum afterwards. He clutched the antidote vial, hidden inside a teddy bear. The bear even had a name written on it, Davy. He unscrewed the vial, the metallic scent of the serum filling his nostrils. Doubt gnawed at him. What if it didn't work? What if it backfired? Made him sick or older? He clutched the teddy bear tightly in his grip. He couldn't risk losing it. He had to do this. He threw back the youth serum, the taste bitter and metallic. A burning sensation spread through his body, starting in his stomach and radiating outwards. He felt dizzy, light-headed. The daycare room spun around him. The world around him grew in size. His heart raced, fear mixing with the strange exhilaration coursing through him. His vision blurry, his body changing. He was getting younger, smaller. He just had to hold on, wait for the right moment. Then he'd reveal himself to Julie, young, adorable, and nearly helpless. She wouldn't be able to resist him. His clothes felt loose, baggy. His hands, once large and strong, were shrinking, becoming small and chubby. He watched in horrified fascination as his body morphed, years seeming to melt away in minutes. His bones cracked, reformed, his muscles shrunk. His skin, once weathered with age, became smooth and soft. He was no longer a man. He was a teenager, awkward and gangly. His voice, deep and resonant only moments ago, was now high-pitched and cracking. Panic welled up inside him. He stripped his clothes and left them hidden behind the bookshelf. He was shrinking so fast. He tried to speak softly to himself, but the words came out as a garbled squeak. Naked, he walked out from his hiding spot, clutching the teddy bear. A toddler, getting younger by the minute. His legs were short, chubby. His arms, weak and uncoordinated. He was a crawling baby now, his mind trapped inside a rapidly de-aging body. He watched helplessly as the world around him seemed to grow larger, more intimidating. He was a prisoner in his own transforming flesh. Section 4, trapped. He crawled towards the center of the room with his teddy bear, his movements clumsy and uncoordinated. He had to hang on the antidote. He had to reverse this process before it was too late, but his body was betraying him. Every instinct, now that of a confused, scared child. He reached the teddy bear, grabbing its soft fur with a surprisingly strong grip. He babbled, words failing him, trying to form coherent sentences. But all that came out were incoherent sounds, the frustrated cries of a baby. He was a baby now, his body small and helpless. He lay on the floor, tears streaming down his face. He was trapped, his mind screaming inside a body that could no longer respond to his commands. He watched as Julie entered the room, her face a mixture of confusion and concern. He tried to speak, to explain, but all that came out were gurgling sounds. He was a prisoner in his own body, his worst nightmare come true. Section 5, a shocking discovery. Julie froze, staring at the baby on the floor. Where had he come from? The daycare was supposed to be empty. She rushed over, scooping him up in her arms. He was a beautiful baby with large blue eyes and a smattering of golden curls. She checked the room again, searching for a parent, a bag, anything that could explain his presence, but there was nothing. The baby snuggled into her arms, his soft cries subsiding into quiet hiccups. He seemed scared, lost. She tried to soothe him, rocking him gently and humming a lullaby. His big blue eyes, filled with a wisdom that seemed at odds with his age, stared up at her. He tried to speak, his tiny mouth opening and closing, but only incoherent sounds escaped. Julie felt a surge of protectiveness wash over her. She didn't know where he came from or who his parents were, but she couldn't leave him here. She would take care of him, at least until she could figure things out. Section 6. A Baby's Plea. David stared up at Julie, his heart sinking. He was stuck. He could see the confusion in her eyes, the concern. He tried to tell her, to explain that he wasn't really a baby, but his tongue felt thick and clumsy. He watched as she carried him out of the daycare, his teddy bear left abandoned on the floor. The antidote, his only hope of reversing the transformation, was lost. He was trapped, a grown man in a baby's body with no way to explain his predicament. He gurgled, flailed his arms, trying to get her attention. But she just smiled down at him, mistaking his distress for hunger or tiredness. He was alone, lost in a world that no longer recognized him. He was a prisoner in a chubby, helpless body, his love for Julie now a distant, impossible dream. He was lost, alone, and utterly hopeless. His bizarre transformation was complete.
David and Julie were close once, like two peas in a pod. They shared secrets, dreams, and a love for old black and white movies. Then it all changed. David wanted more in their relationship. Julie rejected him after that. Everything downhill from there. Julie even a court protection order on him. David stole the youth serum from his boss's lab just to be near Julie as a baby. Julie became his legal guardian after it was clear he didn't match any missing children. She cared for him, but there were times David truly regretted putting himself in this situation, like the diaper changes. Julie's soft hands rubbing baby oil and lotion into his most private of areas. Her playful jokes now felt condescending. His heart ached with every coo and gurgle that escaped his lips. He was a prisoner in his own body. He watched her, longing for their old life together. Their movie nights now replaced with bedtime stories, their deep conversations reduced to baby talk and one-sided conversations. He was lost, adrift in a sea of baby toys and a broken plan. David's days were monotonous. Daycare every single weekday, then spending his weekends with Julie under her loving care. A cacophony of shrieks and giggles. He, a man in a baby's body, forced to crawl and drool alongside them. The toys mocked him. The sippy cups were an insult. He watched the clock, counting down the hours, waiting for Julie so they could go home, hoping for a glimpse of understanding in her eyes, but she just saw a child, a mere helpless infant needing her. He was a burden she never asked for, but every day was thankful for. He felt a surge of anger, then a wave of despair. He was trapped, a prisoner of his own foolish desire. His life, once filled with promise, now revolved around nap times and juice boxes. Amidst the chaos of daycare, David found his purpose. He would escape. He would find a way to reverse the youth serum's effects. Hope flickered within him, a tiny flame in the vast darkness. He started small, testing his limits. Each day he grew stronger, his baby muscles infused with his playtime. He practiced crawling, then walking, pushing himself further. The teddy bear was kept safe in his crib at home. Julie never risked it being lost or damaged by a toddler at the daycare. David dreamed of escaping this life of infancy. His escape plan, meticulously crafted in his mind, was his only solace. He clung to it, a lifeline in a sea of helplessness. Julie had one weakness: keeping things clean, especially David's stuffed teddy bear with Davy's name on it. The name reminded her of a dear friend who got obsessive with her. Julie hated to admit it, but since she blocked him online and tossed out his pictures, she was forgetting his facial features these days. Julie tossed the teddy bear into the wash with his baby clothes.
No, no, no!
Little did she know Ted held David's only hope, a vial of antidote hidden within. Today was laundry day.
Juju, please!
David watched in horror as Julie tossed Ted in the washing machine. He tried to crawl towards her, whimpering, but she mistook his desperation for playful babbling.
Oh, you silly boy.
He banged on the washing machine door, a futile attempt to stop the inevitable. The machine whirred and spun. David's heart sank with each rotation. He knew. He just knew. His only hope to return to his adult self was gone now.
No, no, no!
The vial, unable to withstand the onslaught of soap and water, cracked. His hope, dissolved in the suds, swirled down the drain. David cried, pointing at the washing machine. He wanted to scream, to shake her, to make her understand, but his words came out as incoherent babbles.
Mama! Ted! No, no, no!
Julie cooed, completely oblivious to his panic. Frustration gnawed at him. He was a man trapped in an infant's body, unable to communicate his desperation. The irony was a bitter pill to swallow.
I know, sweetie, you want Ted, but he is taking a bath now. Just wait.
He had longed to be this close to Julie, and now it was his prison. He grabbed her hand, his tiny fingers gripping her tightly.
Mama, listen!
He pleaded, his voice a desperate rasp. She patted his head, mistaking his urgency for a need for attention. His shoulders slumped. He was utterly alone.
There, everything's okay.
The day stretched on, an eternity of forced smiles and meaningless babble. David retreated into himself, a silent observer in the chaotic world, Julie's words giving him no comfort. He was adrift, lost in a sea of baby bottles and building blocks. His escape plan, once a beacon of hope, now lay shattered. As broken as the vial inside the teddy bear was empty now. A crack where the washing water got in, then drained out into the sewers. As Julie picked him up, his heart heavy with despair, he looked at her with a knowing sadness. He was trapped, his escape thwarted, his future uncertain. He was a man-child, forever bound to the whims of fate and the limitations of his infantile form. Julie was his mother now. He'd have to get used to being her loving son.